Adam here from Digital Goja. I searched Amazon, eBay, Google, and our customer service emails for the most asked questions about the Fuji X-Pro2. And I'd like to share the answers with you. I divided this video into two segments, one for beginners and one for advanced. If this video helps you out, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. And when you're in Miami, please visit Izzy and I at the Digital Goja showroom. Let's get started with the most asked questions on the Fujifilm X-Pro2 by beginners. Why doesn't the Fujifilm X-Pro2 have the Fujifilm logo on the front of the camera? Well, the Fujifilm X-Pro2 is one of Fuji's flagship cameras, and this is designed for the street shooter. So the camera is a bit more discreet, and they decided to keep the logo up top on the top plate. Is the Fujifilm X-Pro2 waterproof? No, unfortunately the camera is not waterproof, but it is weatherproof. So you can't dunk this in a pool of water, but if you're outside and it's raining, you can feel comfortable shooting with it. But remember, you'll have to pair the camera with a weather-resistant lens. This particular lens that's on it right now is not a WR lens, but Fujifilm has 9 WR weather-resistant lenses in the lineup. So again, it's not waterproof, but weatherproof, and it has seals all around the camera. So again, feel comfortable shooting it out in inclement weather with the appropriate lens. Does the camera, the Fujifilm X-Pro2, have Wi-Fi? Of course it does. And has a very good app, the Fujifilm Camera Remote app, and you can find that on the Android or iTunes store. You'll have the option of using the phone to control the camera as a remote shutter. You can browse the images on the card. You can transfer the images to your phone, and you can also use your phone to geotag the images that you take because there's no GPS in the camera. Is the Fujifilm X-Pro2 a full-frame camera? No, it's not. It has an APS-C size sensor, which is going to give you about a 1.5x crop factor. So any lens that you have, let's say you put on a 50mm lens, that's going to give you the equivalent of a 75mm on a 35mm full-frame format. Has the issue with the exposure compensation dial been resolved? Well, they didn't add a locking button for the exposure compensation like they have for the shutter speed dial. So it is possible to accidentally rotate the exposure compensation dial, but there is a bit more resistance. It's a little bit harder to rotate, but you still got to be careful when carrying around the camera on your shoulder. You just got to keep an eye so you don't accidentally adjust your exposure compensation. Does the Fujifilm X-Pro2 have 2 card slots? Yes, it does. And the Fuji X-Pro2 has a primary card slot and a secondary slot. Primary card slot will accept UHS 2 cards. The secondary slot will accept UHS 1 cards. So yes, you can use 2 cards in the X-Pro2. What type of cards can I use with the Fuji X-Pro2? This camera can take 2 memory cards. They take 2 SD cards. You can use what I have here. Fuji X-Pro2 will handle a UHS 2 card and SDXC. So this is a 128 gigabyte card, which would be great for shooting RAW and video. Another SDXC UHS 2 card from Sony. This card would work really well, and this is one of our fastest cards available. And you have cards, other cards like a UHS 1 and UHS 1, U1 and U3, and these both in 64 and 128 would be great to use with the Fuji X-Pro2. Does the Fujifilm X-Pro2 come with a flash? No, unfortunately it doesn't have a pop-up flash, but it does have a standard hot shoe, which would accept any of Fuji's hot shoe TTL flashes. But you can get something like the Altura Universal Flash, and this would fit nicely on top of the camera, and it would work in full manual, and you'll have a great source of light for anything that you would need. Can I add a date stamp on pictures for printing with the X-Pro2? No, unfortunately you can't do that in the camera, although it does save within the EXIF data the date and time that it was taken. And again, with the phone and Wi-Fi, you can add the GPS coordinates if you need to do that. So no, the date stamp for pictures for printing is not available. Is the autofocus faster than the previous version? Of course. Fujifilm has improved the AF speed drastically. The Fujifilm X-Pro2 now features the X Processor Pro, and it now features 91 phase detection AF points. Does the Fujifilm X-Pro2 feature in-body image stabilization? No, unfortunately it doesn't. You'll find the image stabilization mechanism inside certain lenses from Fuji. Does the Fujifilm have an articulated screen? No, the screen on here is fixed. There is no articulated screen on the X-Pro2 camera body. Does the AF assist lamp flicker on the Fuji X-Pro2? Well, the Fuji X-Pro2's AF assist lamp will activate when you push the shutter in once, and then when you let go to focus, it will go off, and so it's going to turn on and turn off after you take a photo. Let's get started with the most asked questions on the Fujifilm X-Pro2 by advanced users. Does the Fujifilm X-Pro2 use the same battery as X-Pro1? Yes, it does. This is the MPW126 battery. This, again, was the same battery used for the Fuji X-Pro1. So if you have a bunch of these in your camera bag from your previous camera, you're all good to use them with the X-Pro2. Does the Fuji X-Pro2 provide GEOTAG info? Well, the module isn't inside the camera itself. You'd have to use the camera remote app. So what you have to do is you'd have to connect your phone to your camera using the Fuji Connect app. Once you're connected to the Fuji X-Pro2, then what you do is you're going to open up the Fuji camera remote app. You're going to connect, and once the camera connects to the phone, you're going to select the GEOTAG option. You're going to select geotagging, and once you do that, it's going to send the geotag information over to the camera, and when you start taking photos, it's going to add the location info to each photo that you take. And that's how you get geotag info onto your photos with the Fuji X-Pro2. Does the camera, the Fuji X-Pro2, have a silent shooting mode? Of course it does. This is a great street shooter camera. So what you'd want to do to remove any shutter noise or camera noise, first you're going to want to go into the camera setting, and you're going to want to choose what shutter the camera is going to use. So whether or not the camera is going to use the mechanical shutter or the electronic shutter. So we're going to choose the electronic shutter. Then we're going to go into settings. Once you're into the settings, you're going to go over to the sound setup. When you go into the sound setup, you can get rid of the autofocus beep. You can get rid of the self-timer beep. Operation volume, you can turn to off. And the shutter volume, you have options of different types of shutter sounds, but you can go into setting the shutter sounds like this, but you can go to shutter volume and turn it off. And once it's off, if I were to take a picture, you're not going to hear anything as far as the shutter. You might hear the lens autofocusing, but there won't be any shutter noise from the camera or AF confirmation beep. Does the Fujifilm X-Pro2 have high-speed sync, or is it compatible with high-speed sync? Yes, it is, but since it doesn't have a pop-up flash, or it doesn't come with an included flash, slide-on flash, what you're going to want to look for is the Fujifilm EF-X500 flash. This is the newest Pro Series flash from Fuji, and this will give you the ability to shoot in high-speed sync. On the Fujifilm X-Pro2, is the optical viewfinder, the OVF, adequate for longer telephoto lenses? Well, I would say no. I would use this camera up to probably about a 90mm lens. That would be the maximum telephoto that I would use with this. But since it's a rangefinder design, and the OVF is over here, part of the lens is going to block the optical viewfinder, making it more difficult to see. That's where the beauty of this camera lies, is that it has an optical viewfinder as well as a electronic viewfinder. So I would switch to the electronic viewfinder when using any longer telephoto lenses on the X-Pro2. Can I attach Leica M-mount lenses to the Fuji X-Pro2? Of course you can. With the use of an adapter, and there's several adapters that are like this that allow you to adapt any other brand lenses, like if you're going to adapt Canon lenses to your X-Pro2, Nikon lenses to your X-Pro2, even Leica R-mount lenses and other classic lenses. So with the adapter, you're going to want to take your lens, like the popular Leica M 50mm Summicron f2, and I have a Voigtlander with the M mount over here, the color scope bar. So with the Leica M lens, you're going to take your adapter, you're going to mount the adapter to your lens, and with this adapter, now you can place it onto your camera. You're going to remove the Fuji lens, the X-mount lens. You're going to match the red dot over here to the red dot on the body mount, and you're going to lock it on, and you're going to hear it click, and that's when you know the lens is secured. Now with the Fuji X-Pro2, you can register what lens you're using, and you would go into the menu and you go down to the shooting settings, and you go to mount adapter setting, and I have the lens registration set for the 50mm lens. Now once you have that set, you're going to hit OK, and you're going to go back. Now that's going to set the frame lines in the optical viewfinder for the 50mm lens when you have a non-native or non-dedicated lens attached to your Fujifilm X-Pro2. Can you choose different aspect ratios when shooting in RAW? Well, let's check this out. So we're going to hit the menu button over here. We're going to go to image quality, right? And we're going to switch to RAW. So when the image quality is set to RAW, if you look up top, the image size is not going to be highlighted. So you don't have the capability of choosing the different aspect ratios. So if I choose if I go back to Fine, which is the JPEG, if I go up to image size, now I can select the 1:1, 16:9, and 3:2 aspect ratio. So if you shoot in RAW, remember you're only going to be able to record the image in the 3:2 aspect ratio, but don't fret, because in any type of post-processing, you can crop it however you like. So if you're looking to upload directly to, let's say, Instagram, which is a square format, and you want to shoot 1:1, what you'd want to do when shooting RAW is you want to make sure to frame and leave enough space so that when you crop afterwards, you have enough room to work with the image. And so when shooting RAW, remember, you cannot choose any other aspect ratio than the 3:2 aspect ratio that's formatted for the APS-C sensor. Does the dual split screen manual focus assist work with non-dedicated lenses like the Leica M mount that I have on the camera? Yes, it does, and I'll show you how it works. Okay, to access the digital split image focus assist, it's real simple. You're going to hit menu or the OK button, and you're going to access the menu. Once you do that, you're going to select manual focus assist. You're going to have three options. You can have standard, digital split image, or focus peak highlight. Select digital split image. Now there are two options. You have monochrome or color. So these options you choose according to the scene that you're photographing and what's easiest for you. So you're going to make your selection, and you got to make sure that you hit select or OK. Once you go to the main screen, you're going to see it grayed out on the main screen. Again, it's important to select OK. And once you go to the main screen, you'll see in the middle there's going to be a grayed out box. Now straight lines are going to be broken apart, and once the image is in focus, it will all come together, and that's how you use digital split image manual focus assist on the Fuji X-Pro2. So can you mount Canon speedlights with the X-Pro2 and get it to work? Well, you won't have TTL on the Canon Flash, but if you have some Canon Flashes lying around, you can still use it. I shoot in manual, and this camera can actually sync up to 2/50th of a second. So I, set the shutter speed to 1/25th of a second, and set the aperture to either 5.6 or f8. And once you do that, you're going to grab your Canon speedlight, and I have the 430 EX3 RT. This is the newest 430 edition from Canon. So when you turn the flash on, it's set to manual right now, but if you hit the mode, you have the option between ETTL and manual. So you're going to select manual, and then now you have your option to choose your flash output. So I have it set to half power. So now if I install the flash onto the hot shoe of the Fuji camera, and I lock it in, if I turn the camera on, the flash will fire when I take the photo. So you just got to make sure that you know the intensity of the flash so you can set the appropriate aperture on the camera. And that's how you get a Canon flash to operate with a Fuji camera. Does the Fuji X-Pro2 feature clean HDMI out? No, unfortunately it doesn't. You'll have to record directly to the memory card. Fuji did change the HDMI port on the camera to a mini type D connector as compared to the mini type C connector that's found on the X-Pro1. What features were added or changed with the new firmware update? Well, there was a huge firmware update for the Fuji X-Pro2. One of the top thing that changed on the camera was the number of focusing points. That increased to 91 points in 7x13 and 325 points in 13x25. It's increased the amount of phase detect autofocusing points to 91, and there are 325 total focusing points on the Fuji X-Pro2. And the way you can check that is if you go into the menu, you'll go to AF/MF. You go down to where it says number of focusing points, and you'll see that in the screen. Once the firmware is updated, you'll see where it says 91 and 325. So there are 20 different points that they've improved on the camera. The focusing points is probably one of the big improvement, but they've also improved the phase detection AF accuracy. They've improved the AF tracking function. They've improved the focusing point of eye detection AF, and it's improved where it will focus on the closest eye to the camera. The firmware also updated the camera so it's compatible with the new EF X500 flash, and it's improved the bright frame lines in the optical viewfinder, as well as some of the OIS functions and many more. So it's definitely worth upgrading the firmware on your camera if you haven't done so far. I would definitely recommend going to Fujifilm's support website for their X series cameras and installing the latest firmware on your Fujifilm X-Pro2. Is there a grip for the Fujifilm X-Pro2? Well, there's not Fujifilm doesn't manufacture a better grip for the camera, but they do offer a grip for more comfort when carrying the camera. And this is going to attach to the bottom of the camera. This is the MHG X-Pro2 grip. And what it's going to give you is the ability to go directly to a tripod because it's going to have the Arca Swiss dovetail plate on the bottom. So it will make the Fujifilm X-Pro2 compatible with any tripod head that's compatible with an Arca Swiss plate. What lenses are available for the Fuji X-Pro2? Well, Fuji has a complete lineup of lenses. Right here we have the 23mm f1.4R lens, but there are approximately 13 prime lenses available and 9 zoom lenses available. So with the zoom lenses, you have anything like a 10-24 to a 100 to 400 millimeter zoom. And in the prime lenses, you have a 14mm f2.8 prime, all the way up to a 90mm prime. And you have a really fast portrait lens, the 56mm f1.2, as well as some of the new weather-resistant lenses. And they have a really beautiful portrait lens, the 56mm f1.2, as well as some new weather-resistant lenses like the 50mm f2 prime. So if you're in the market for Fujifilm X-Pro2, they already have a complete lineup of lenses available for your liking. How many exposures does the Fuji X-Pro2 take during the multi-exposure mode? So to access the multi-exposure mode, you're going to hit the drive button right over here. When you hit drive, you'll have all these different options, right? So you're going to go down to where it says multiple exposure. When you select that, now that will allow you to take 2 exposures and it would automatically merge those images together, and I'll show you an example. What frame lines are available when using the optical viewfinder or the OVF? There's 2 sets. There's for wide angle and there's for telephoto. So there's frame lines for 18mm, 23mm, 27mm, and 32mm, as well as 56mm, 60, and 90. Anything beyond 90, you're going to need to use the electronic viewfinder in order to operate the camera properly. Well, I hope you liked this video on the X-Pro2 and that you found it helpful. Please share this video with your photography friends and leave your questions in the comment section below. Happy shooting. Oh, wait a minute, Izzy's not here. Oops, I can't say that. I'll see you next time.